Have you ever thought how would your life be if you were blind? And not only you, but the whole society? What role will you play? And who will you follow and why? In Blindness, José Saramago presents a haunting allegory of society collapsing under the weight of a sudden and inexplicable pandemic. The novel follows a group of people who are struck by a white blindness, leaving them isolated and forced to reorganize themselves without the structures of modern civilization. Through this crisis, Saramago explores several topics related to human nature and the process surrounding a social reorganization. So, in these videos, we are going to focus on how leadership, power, and authority emerge and evolve in these circumstances.
The first representation of authority appears early in the book. At first, the government tries to face the pandemic by separating the blinds from the rest of the society, with the belief that maybe it is contagious to be in contact with them. They exercise formal authority, based on the right to command and the expectation of obedience from the population. They decided to put the blinds in lock at an abandoned mental asylum, which will be watched by soldiers, whose organizational structure is also based on formal authority. They formulated a regulation to follow inside the asylum, reflecting their orientation to faithfully follow the rules, but ignoring the feelings and emotions of the people inside the building. The blinds inside the asylum try to organize themselves to ration the food and the space, avoiding the conflicts between the internees. However, the absence of institutional leadership made power surface in its rawest form. Eventually, a group of blinds took control of the food distribution. They represent coercive power based on fear. They were armed with weapons and used them to control the rest of the blinds, demanding valuables and forcing women to submit to sexual abuse in exchange for food. These individuals did not possess legitimate authority, and their influence arises solely from dominating and violence. Inside this group, the dynamic was completely utilitarian and fear-based. This is exemplified when the original leader is murdered, because the power shifted to another person the moment he got the gun. There was no other reason to keep following his rules.
For us, there is only one character who emerges as a true leader. Casually, she is the only one that retains her side. The doctor's wife lead is not given by any formal institution, but rather by her actions, moral clarity, and her willingness to protect others. She gains credibility, respect, and trust. At the same time, she becomes the moral compass of the group and the embodiment of principal power. She makes many hard decisions inside and outside the asylum, always trying to choose the best for her team. Other characteristics is her sensitivity and empathy reflect on how she supports the woman that was being brutally abused when she murders the leader of the Room 3. In addition, she has a strong orientation to service and courage, always looking for others' wellness in comparison with the leader of the Room 3, who always abused his power to his own satisfaction.
We can compare these two characters, the doctor's wife and the man with the gun, based on the managerial roles proposed by Henry Mixfer and how these roles can be used in a totally opposite way. Both assume the roles of leader, spokesperson, and resource allocator, but with two completely different intentions. First, the wife leads with compassion, and so she uses her vision to inform the group, to protect them, and also to guide them through the whole asylum. She also fulfills the informational roles of monitor and disseminator. And also, she makes ethical decisions as an entrepreneur, disturbance handler, and negotiator. In contrast, the man with the gun uses these same roles but for domination, leading through fear, hoarding resources, and also negotiating but based on fear and coercion. Also, we have to remember that there are three levels of power. First, fear, second, utilitarian, and third, based on principles. One leader might have more than one, but we have to consider a special trait for the principle-based type of power. And this is that the principles and values of the leader are a reflection of the principles and values of the group. For example, the doctor's wife followers are compassion like her. They care about others, and that's why they chose her as their leader. On the other hand, we have the man with the gun. And of course, most of his followers follow him based on fear because they fear that they might be killed. But there are some people that of course follow him because they have the same values. They want to have power, they want to be feared by others, and that's why they follow him. So in this context, it is always important to remember this, the fact that in some cases the leader of a group is the reflect of that group. And so this might be important for some companies. If you want to change your culture in your company, maybe you should consider like the quality of leaders that you have, and so in that way you can change like the whole culture. So in conclusion, we think that this book is a really good one if we want to see different aspects of society because of the special trait that the whole society is blind. Of course, we can see all these topics in our present society without us being blind, but the fact of this trait being added to the whole analysis, I think it's really special. And of course, it is always possible to see your major reflected on different novels, and it is really important to have the capacity of analyzing these kind of topics through the lens of being an administrator.